Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part two of the 13 L&D Nightmares.
Okay, number 7. I feel like as an L&D team, we usually see this, or we see this the most. The specter of weak leadership, which means
I don't know, what
training
do you mean
leaders,
there?
leaders who don't inspire or effectively manage their teams.
Mm.
Training leaders who don't inspire or effectively manage their teams.
Interesting. I will hear that also as the leader that does not motivate their team members to learn or to
Yeah,
grow. They basically hammer on their productivity and on their
right.
deliverables and on their results and want
Agree.
to get the job done, and the focus is basically on the job but not on the person, and not on the
Yeah,
person's development, and not on the person need of growth, and not on what the individual needs to develop, to produce more, to deliver more.
hmm So what would be your solution, John? Is this a heart-to-heart conversation with a leader?
I think it is. Yes, that's exactly
Mm,
it. That's exactly it.
yeah,
Like, the leader also has needs, but then it
yeah,
is very easy to gather the impact of weak leadership from the team. The team always feels it.
mm,
They will always know it. So,
yeah,
you know what I would do? I would have a conversation with the leader, obviously, and ask for authorization to go talk to the team. And then independently gather feedback from the team on the impact of the
mm,
leadership to this individual. And then proceed with a heart to heart conversation.
okay,
This is what the team feels. This is
yeah,
how they see um, the relationship here.
yeah,
Uh, and
mm,
the reason for them to feel this way and see the relationship this way is because there is no space or room for growth. There is no
mm-hmm,
conversation about their development. There is no interaction or interest in their personal aspirations.
yeah. I also think if you do that, that puts you at a strategic position as an L&D professional,
Exactly.
adds your
Right.
value and yeah, your value as part of the team or in the organization. So yeah, okay. The next one. This is a favorite just because a lot of people talk about this nowadays.
It is a favorite. I'm going to tell you, look, AI Reaper, right? Is that the next one?
Yeah, the AI
Okay, what,
Reaper.
what is this about?
So when I put this here, it's the fear of or the AI Reaper, AI replacing L&D professionals or artificial intelligence will replace L&D professionals. I don't really believe that will actually be replaced by AI though. But I think there are some who are afraid of this, or it
I
is
think,
constantly talked about.
yeah, I think the administrative responsibilities
Yeah.
that are repetitive, that can be automated, may impact the work of training
Mm,
coordinators, for example, learning coordinators.
yeah.
Um, you know, and yeah, there is going to be an impact in that area. Um, may impact the need of instructional designers,
Mm,
um, full-time instructional designers, because
sure.
you now have apps that create a training as long as you give a prompt, and then you have an entire course with an outline there that obviously
Mm-hmm.
will need customization, your branding will need your content to be tailored. So you won't
Mm-hmm.
just copy and paste what these apps produce, obviously. But then
Yeah.
you wouldn't need an instructional designer to be crafting the entire course from
Mm-hmm.
conceptualization all the way to delivery, because you have that there. So it's
Sure.
going to impact the work that they do, but I also don't think it's going to replace them,
Yeah.
because even
Yeah.
if I produce a content from an app, I still need to have a designer look to
Yeah.
confirm that the output follows learning principles, adult learning principles, and follow, a logical, systematic outline. I still needed to have a designer look to do that. It's
Yeah,
just that the productivity will increase, and
for
the
sure.
designer is not going to have to spend all the time that they used to spend creating a course.
Hmm. Yeah, there's this, I don't know if it was on LinkedIn that I saw this, but they say that AI won't replace your job, but you will be replaced by someone who uses AI.
That is so smart.
Right?
So smart. I think
Right?
it's so well said. So the
Because
call to
yeah,
action is adaptability here is really like
yeah,
upgrade, upskill.
for sure. I mean, because like what you said, John, like, I don't think the role of an instructional designer will be replaced by an actual AI. But I do think, like, going back to that example, an instructional designer will be replaced by another instructional designer who uses
Uh-huh.
AI because they'll
Who
just
uses
work
AI?
faster and they'll be
Yeah.
using their resources more. So yeah, so I would say upgrade, upskill, and make sure that you just know how to use AI as your tool in
To
your practice.
integrate it in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
make it part of how you work because we all need tools,
yeah,
and AI is a tool. That's
yeah,
what it is. It is just a tool. So just integrate
yes.
it in your work, and you will be safe.
There's this person I want to say I kind of follow on LinkedIn. I haven't seen her entire post, but it seems because she teaches writing, but it seems that her post so far, I have not seen it change, but her post is like challenging how AI doesn't quite capture the good writing that is needed for that can be done by a person. But I'm also like at some point, so there's clearly resistance on her side, and I think it's also because maybe the fear is that if people just end up uh, putting their bad emails or their poorly written emails right on ChatGPT to fix, at some point her writing classes might be obsolete. That's what I think, which is probably why that's her. It's just funny because I've seen her do examples, and I admire this girl because there's a class that I have taken, like a webinar I've attended from her. But I think she's in that mode of challenging AI. But I'm also like, girl, I think you need to approach this in a different way at some point because I'm like, for me now, especially when I don't have that space, or it just makes email writing a lot easier. I do like a
Uh-huh.
whole brain dump, everything that I want to say, especially to a client or to another coworker. I just type it all down without editing myself, and then I
Uh-huh.
paste it on Chat GPT and say this nicer or say this in a more professional way, and it just
And
does
now,
it. And
yes, no, this is why I talk
mm,
about integrate these tools to your work because it is
yeah,
interesting you mentioned that you go to another, you paste it elsewhere. Now, if you are working for a company that uses Google, and you have an enterprise plan, you have access to their Gemini feature, which
mm,
suggests you write your email in your
right.
inbox, and it suggests to
Oh,
you
I've seen that.
right
Yeah,
there and then how
yeah.
to improve, how to make it better, how to rewrite it in a nicer way. Like you can just,
Hmm.
and the feature comes and asks you, do you want to write this better? And you just say
Mm,
yes, and then it rewrites the email for you right there in your inbox.
right. And I
The
would like to call on
integration of
Google.
this is good. Ah, yeah.
Google. John has done
Okay.
John has done
So
another product placement.
just
Google, if you're interested, becoming our
no,
sponsor.
but it is so cool now to see how they
No, but
are
that's true.
coming and integrating our day-to-day work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's also because Google is Google, right? So it's also them making sure that they're still relevant and up to date. So that's why they have like that integration in their email. Yeah. Okay. Next is number 9, the compliance nightmare.
We spoke a lot about it. It is true. Yeah. How do you define it?
Compliance training that is boring, ineffective, and doesn't get completed. That doesn't get completed. That's a nightmare. Sometimes it's
Right.
also right, like that one thing not getting completed. That's such a nightmare.
But it's because, look, many places where we operate, and in some countries, they regulate learn compliance in the workplace. And so they mandate that your entire 100% of your workforce goes
Yeah.
through XYZ trainings because it is the regulation in that particular country or region or state.
Sure.
So what happens is you have people that have been in the company for 3-4 years, and they go through the same training year after year. So there is a
Yeah.
moment when I have seen this before. I know this. I have already gone through it. Why am I spending time
Yeah.
here again? And it becomes a nightmare. So, when we spoke about updating it, um, that's what makes a case
Sure.
for this monster.
Yeah. The thing is, though, John, I mean, I agree. I think if you are in charge of creating and developing the compliance training, that's great. That's to your
Uh-huh.
advantage to be able to update it and not make it a nightmare to people. But my other concern is there are some companies that need their people to undergo like a HIPAA certification, and it's a third
Uh-huh.
party training program. So
Right.
so I don't know, like what. So you become because that's in your department, and I'm just basing this off what I'm seeing right now. The training department is just constantly, I guess, reminding people complete this compliance training, but it's so boring. Like I've taken it. I took it when I was being onboarded. It was so long.
Because the
I don't know if I
expectation
should
is
say
that
this.
training
You know
needs
what?
to be fun.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just throwing out a situation that I don't know how to address as L&D if the training is of a third party and it's a compliance training. Should we do campaigns?
We don't control it though. Yeah, that is true. But I think what
Right.
we can control is which provider we choose from. So if we go through a compliance session this year, and we get feedback from our people about how was it, what did you feel, etc., and then based on and listen to their feedback, next year we are in control of what provider we choose, and we can vet and screen the provider to not be a nightmare, to not be
Yeah.
another nightmare.
Sure.
I think that's the control that we have.
I guess so. Or maybe there is a way for you to still provide the training, the learning, right? Like in the L&D team. And then the quiz or the test, we'll just get them for the test for the certification. But then that way, at least it wasn't
That makes
such
sense.
a nightmare. Yeah, right? Going through the training itself, if that is possible. But I think that's another way to go about it. Like hold the learning or the space where they train, and then just use the provider for the certification or the test.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That is a good strategy
Yeah.
here, because then you have more control over the impact and the reaction of your learners than the previews,
Sure.
than the alternative.
Yeah, but because we did digress, but like going back, if you are in charge of creating the compliance and there are compliance courses or programs that learners need to complete, what did you suggest then? Or what were you suggesting? for the compliance not to be a nightmare?
I saw a trainer
Mhm.
dress up in a costume, and
A data breach,
um,
costume.
yeah, in a costume, and come to the audience wearing that costume,
Hmm.
because the topic, compliance usually has this tone of seriousness, of
Sure.
it's a stress, and so it really needs people to. It comes with call to action. It comes with do's and don'ts. It is restrictive type
Mm.
of training.
Yeah.
So I saw this person come to a training, wearing a Mandalorian costume, and then switched the entire conversation from "don't do this" or "do this." So switched from the imperative tone of
Sure.
the conversation to a more consequential tone, if you wish.
Mm.
And so instead of saying, "in these situations do this, in these situations don't do that," the
Mm.
person said, "if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And then
Yeah.
if you want this result, this is the way." And
Right.
then every time that they mention this ending, this is the way, there was an echo, and so other
Yeah.
people would go and repeat that and repeat that and repeat that, like if they were being hypnotized. So
Yeah.
this person again made the content super relatable because it
Mm.
came dressed in a costume that everybody recognized, and
Yeah.
used an expression that everybody had heard, but then switched
Uh,
the tone from imperative to beneficial.
mm.
So this is the type of thing that obviously will take experience for you to get to the point that you can do it. But also,
Yeah.
if you are out there and if you're exposed to pop culture, but also
Yeah.
if you have a little bit of creativity, you can just
Yeah.
expand outside of the formality of a compliance training and do it. And it was effective. It did get the results that was expected. There was 80+% compliance rate
Mm.
that year, which was a huge
Nice.
improvement from past years because of the switch in the training approach.
Yeah. Nice. Um, you mentioned that it was showing the consequence, right? I remember in one of Ray's workshops, he had like he showed a sample, and I just remember this now. He showed a sample of like a policy or a company policy, and how to make sure that people remember the policy or that they go through it in a that they're it's not boring. The way he did it was he shows it that way with a consequence. So instead of just saying
Yeah,
do not drink, don't come to work intoxicated, he shows like a consequence of like what it means when you come to work intoxicated. And it was funny because Ray does like a whole shock value, so he shows the extreme. But this one is because the guy is working at like this. He's a woodworker, so he was dealing with heavy machinery. So he would show like these intense examples of this guy coming in for work intoxicated and then using this machine that was cutting off stuff. And then the next slide is he cuts off his arm. I was like, oh my goodness, shock value. And then
I think
they
compliance
show,
training has that characteristic of like the shock being shocking. You
yeah,
have to be shocked. You have to shock your audience so
yeah,
they wake up. Um,
yeah.
but I also think number nine, Jess, is
Mm.
it becomes sweet dream and not a nightmare when you gamify it.
Mm. Yeah,
Don't you think that
sweet dream.
gamification, either during the training or post
Yes,
training?
that's true. Yeah, that's true. It can be fun too because some people like to be entertained when they train. You said,
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna hit the competitive folks out there. They will truly enjoy. And
that's
I
true.
know that where I work, uh, competitions, like learning competitions, really, really drive participation, especially for self-paced courses.
Mm.
When we announce a new course and we say, and at the end of the month, we tell them that we are going to communicate the top three teams, and that is for companies that can do that. There is a budget associated that is going to be given to this company. So this is what we do. We announce this is the new course. Until the end of the month, the top three teams will get X amount of dollars for their next team
Mhm.
building activity added to their
Mm.
budget
Right.
from the L&D department. So this
Yeah.
is not applicable to every company because not everybody
Sure.
has these resources. But even if you reduce it to, so if you have the resource, use it for this purpose because it's
Mm.
your budget impacting the business results and then increasing your
Yeah.
compliance rates. Now, if you don't have that capability, just the fact of announcing the top three is going to drive the competitors out there to
Mm.
comply and follow through
That's true.
because they want their team, especially in leadership. Because I think if you know, there is a study I saw somewhere that I don't remember now the source, unfortunately, where the ratio between leadership and team members shows leadership has way more competitor profiles than team members, and so it is a good
Huh.
tactic because you are hitting the competitor leaders there who will want to respond to your invite, to your call to act, your
Mm.
compliance course, just because they want to win. And this is what a competitor is. Competitor is a person that wants to win at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah. Competition. Make it a competition, gamify, and show
Mhm.
highlight the consequences is the way to go
In a
about the
shocking way.
compliance nightmare. In a shocking way. Shock all of them. Make it traumatic.
Nightmare. If you don't comply, then it's going to be a real nightmare.
All right. Number 11, the post-training silence. No change in behavior after the training ends. No change in behavior or performance, I guess, to add to that. Ooh.
That's a tricky one, and that's scary for for every
Yeah.
trainer
Yes.
because the responsibility and the accountability that the trainers have is to ensure
Yeah.
that there is going to be behavior change or performance improvement, especially if we determined these will be the
Mhm.
results during the ROI discussions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think of reinforcements. I think you remember when you said in the beginning that training is an learning is an end. Remember
In and
that?
of
So
itself. Yeah.
yeah, it's an end. So when I think of that, this means it doesn't finish with the training. So
Sure.
the session doesn't finish at the end of the hour when the
Yeah.
time is completed. So to
Mm-mm.
avoid the silence, what type of post training assessment could be shared with the
Yeah.
audience so they can keep the learning going? Or
Mhm.
what type of check-ins could we implement after the training to keep the
Yes.
conversation top of mind?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, John. I think to ensure this is you have to take it upon yourself to also be in charge or to help with with the implementation of that particular performance or behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So I think of it in terms of, so I run this communications development program, and it's really on how they should be conducting meetings. So I've given them a framework. Thankfully, there have been like very good reviews from the managers as well, but also there are some practices there that I've put in. And initially my observation was that it seems like it was only in those training sessions that it was happening. And I was worried that it would just be contained there and eventually they wouldn't practice it once they get out of the session. So I brought up my concern, and thankfully I do have very supportive of a supportive manager at that. But I brought up my concern to the board and the rest who would be involved in that situation. And then I basically said something like, this program that I am running now would be useless without the implementation of the following. So I kind of just put it up front and gave a prediction, right? If we do not implement these type of practices, then this would all really be a waste of time, because
Mhm.
I realized that this could only be effective if everyone is in on it, like the managers themselves, or because I was training the supervisors. But I also had to talk to the managers and say, like, this needs to happen. This is the change that we are trying to integrate with your team. And so yes, I do agree that there is an element of implementation that needs to be done, and it doesn't and should not just stay within the figurative four walls of the L&D classroom.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go with, ooh, you commented on this, John. Oh, we skipped this. Sorry. Number 10, the L&D Skeleton Crew. We jumped to
we
11.
did.
Did you not notice that?
We did. I did
Okay.
notice it, but I thought you were going to save time.
L&D Skeleton Crew. Fear, fear, fear. Which is basically L&D Skeleton Crew delivering training or programs with a severely understaffed team.
Yeah, I'm going through that at the moment. And I can imagine all these companies laying off people,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
picking exactly these areas to reduce their costs and maintain their margins.
yeah.
The way that we did it in the past,
Hmm.
when we had to resort to a skeleton crew, we kept the essential, the doers. We kept the
Sure.
doers, those who are client facing and or that are producing content that are client facing, because and those that were the closest to the revenue generating teams.
Hmm. Hmm.
So as much as it is scary, um, to keep a skeleton crew, it's important to be strategic about
Yeah,
what is the crew that I want to
right.
build, what team I want to build here. I want to build a team that is a doer, so not much on the strategic side. I can keep one person on the strategic side, but then I need to have the deliverers, and they have
Yeah.
to be close to the revenue generating teams.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think it's also a time for the L&D team to assess what other things they could leverage on with the team that they have, right? So what
Yeah,
areas can they automate or outsource? Or does this still
right.
have to fall within L&D, or maybe we could collaborate
Yeah,
with other departments, other teams? Um,
absolutely,
so that is
absolutely.
a time to, yeah, assess how else to
When we
scale. Hmm.
It's true, because it was interesting when we had to make costs in this field. Then we quickly saw other departments rising to the occasion and showing
Hmm.
up. And then suddenly we had one of our biggest departments promoting weekly master classes that their
Nice.
leaders were preparing and delivering to their department.
Hmm.
So because it was a wake up call. They couldn't
Yeah.
count on the volume
Yeah.
of work that for the skinny L&D
Yeah.
team to deliver. And they
Yeah.
we also realized it was also an occasion for them to realize the importance of learning, because suddenly there wasn't a team there to help them.
Right.
So they had to step up, and now they are the
Right.
ones
Nice.
who got to implement the master classes that their team members needed. So the outsourcing
Hmm.
model really works, internal outsourcing model.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You are always going to have that leader who likes audiences,
Yeah.
likes to
Yeah.
talk to people,
Yeah.
likes to apply their,
That's true.
communication
Yeah.
skills, their
Right.
training skills,
Yeah.
and this this is a problem that I think of all the list here, it is one of the
Yeah.
most common, but also maybe perhaps one of the easiest to solve.
Sure. That's true. There's always the frustrated TED speaker just out there waiting for their turn. All right. Second to the last, the vanishing L&D budget. Now you see it, now you don't. Losing funds.
I think the best thing that you can do here is become a best buddy of your finance, of your CFO, of your finance director.
That's what I
Just
totally
just
did.
become a just hang out with your financial
That's
director
true.
and of your CFO more often. Treat them, trick and treat them into keeping your L&D budget.
I wouldn't totally dismiss that. Because I think when you're in L&D, there's also an element where you need to be friends with everyone because you'll never know when you'll need their help and need to
Yes.
have champions within the field, right? So, yeah, I would say like up your charms, be friends. Um, this is, I think, I, I do think I have learned to be creative and resourceful because of the lack or the limitation of an L&D budget, especially when I was just starting. I've learned to be really resourceful. So on one hand, it has taught me to be creative in so many ways, but I think the other worry is that because you do so well in being resourceful, that it becomes like you're doing well anyway, so why put in a budget? Um, right? But I think the way to go about this is what we're able to do now with the no budget or low budget. If we are budgeted, this is in the long run, we can do so much more, or we can do this bigger thing eventually once there is a budget for this team.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's the way to go about it. And then the board will say, "Oh, but we're happy where we're at now." um, yeah, I think that's because at the end of the day, you do need to justify why you need to spend so and so. Or I think I would go back to like highlighting what you mentioned, John, like highlighting what you save, right? You invest on this, but this is what you save in the long run, and that would be
Right.
your ROI. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because that's when it, yeah.
All right. Our last nightmare: the hunted platforms, outdated, clunky tech platforms that learners avoid. Hmm.
Have you come across any? I mean, the market is so saturated of LMSs and
Yeah.
that
Yes.
is even difficult to keep track of all that is out there, to
Yes.
know which ones are outdated and etc. But I have
Yeah.
had to replace an LMS system once because of the fact that it was cumbersome to
Mm-mm.
administer.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think as someone who works in who provides learning software, I don't think it's an issue of being outdated or clunky, but I think it's more of an issue of getting the learners to learn the platform or integrating them to the
Yeah.
platform,
Uh-huh.
which, well, at least on my side, that falls because we do manage clients for our software. So the biggest part there is it's one thing for them to sign, right? But it's another to really onboard them properly and make
Right.
sure that they are maximizing the features and they know how to use it on their own. So I think it falls a lot on proper onboarding and proper implementation of the platform. And so if you're an L&D team that outsources that, right, or you got a vendor or bought an LMS the way to go about this then is to have a proper implementation or onboarding program to make sure that your learners are actually using it and would use it and not feel like they're overwhelmed.
And promote it. Most
Yes.
of the time we stop at implementing and
That's true.
or
Yeah.
at the training,
Campaigning.
and then we don't campaign for it
Yeah.
afterwards.
Agree.
That's where that's a way to solve it. You need to have a person who is an advocate to the platform, who knows what it is and who stays there
Yes.
with the users, campaigning for it, showing how to use it, and then the same way that you would do with micro learning for courses, every month send a new feature. Like, make sure that they are updated, because these products they evolve, and usually they send updates to the recipient, to the L&D department, and it stays there and it doesn't get cascaded or disseminated to the rest of the company. So when you have a person that is constantly campaigning and reminding audiences that this exists, that the content is there, that's where they get their learning needs, it becomes easier for this to not be a haunted platform.
Haunted, so people avoid it because it's haunted.
It's haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you see there are ghosts.
All right, John, we did it. We have talked about all 13.
So fun.
Yeah, all 13 of these nightmares. I think we have provided some possible solutions for each and have also expressed our concerns. I'm about to wrap this up. Anything else you want to add there, John, from today?
Let's go, lifelong learners. let's hunt this go. Let's become ghost hunters here and hunt these ghosts away.
I like that. Let's become ghost hunters. Hunt these ghosts away. Yeah, I agree. No need to fear. Face these nightmares with confidence, and know that there's always there's a solution for each one. So, all right, thank you, John, and that wraps up our L&D talk for today. Thanks, everyone.